Let's take a look at some information and charts on Waves for Brave New Coin. Waves is one of the older proof of stake coins that's been slowly reinventing itself, adding stuff and things, competing with Ethereum in DeFi ecosystem, stable coins, dexes, NFTs. We'll take a look at all that stuff. And really that's what any chain needs to be doing. If high cap coins are successful in doing something, then anything below that has to keep up and hope that there's some incentives to bring people and attention to their chain. As far as the DeFi stuff goes, I don't know what the TVL is because it's not loading for me, but that's definitely one thing to watch. We have a bunch of different protocols, a bunch of different dexes, a bunch of different stuff happening, implementations rolling. The exchange looks like any exchange you'd come across. So as a trader, I'm familiar with what this is. I mean, it's TradingView, it's an order book, right? I don't know what the spreads look like in general. I don't know how the volume looks, the liquidity. I don't know about any of that stuff, but I do know that they do have Waves base pairs here and they have something, right? They aren't like talking about implementing an exchange. They aren't talking about bullish global on EOS, for example, raising a bunch of money. They have a working exchange. Whether or not it's good, I don't know, but it's working. So that's a lot more than many exchanges can say. They have a stablecoin USDN Neutrino that's on the chain as well. So they're just copying everything that's successful in other chains, which is perfectly fine. They have some investment yield type stuff with some interesting lures and incentives here. Lambo investments, I always shy away from anything that's ridiculous like that. But some of this other stuff looks more reasonable. Algorithmic trading. Again, I haven't used any of this stuff. Caveat emptor or whatever, do your own research. As far as what any of this is, if you're jumping into any of this stuff. But it looks like it has interoperability in the Waves ecosystem, much like ETH does in the ETH ecosystem. I mean, this stuff looks identical to ETH, right? The only difference is it uses Waves. And you can use a hardware wallet, you can use software wallets. It looks like you can use an email and other stuff to connect. So it's pretty easy to not use MetaMask in this case. And again, I haven't used this, so I don't know what the fees are necessarily. I don't know, right? I don't know about any of this stuff. I just know it exists and it looks a lot like anything on ETH. They have farming, they have governance. It looks very clean and it exists and seems to be working. That's better than 95% of altcoins out there. Total volumes, mostly Waves and the stablecoin USD Neutrino, Bitcoin, stablecoin, ETH, and then this duck egg NFT thing, which we'll take a look at. Kind of interesting. But all the usual stuff in the top 5 here. And you can look at the various pools and nodes and figure out what's the best place to stake if you're staking Waves. The thing is, staking rewards are, after inflation, very low as a percentage. So you're better off, if you're a risk-on, risk-tolerant person, you're better off just gambling elsewhere, right? Than holding. Unless you're buying and holding Waves, you're better off not even bothering with that because that's such a low percentage. The Waves ducks thing, I didn't even realize you could yield and farm your ducks. Kind of interesting in a pyramid shape here. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I haven't used it. I haven't played around with it. It looks a lot like OpenSea. It looks a lot like any other marketplace, which is good. OpenSea is pulling billions in volume over the past month. If anybody's paying attention to that, they are trying to copy the best parts of OpenSea and implement it on their chain. It's really that simple. And again, you can connect wallets easily enough by the looks of it. It doesn't look too difficult to use. And my guess is eventually they'll have more stuff for the metaverse. I don't know. All this stuff is so beyond me, but it's there and it looks like people are using it at the very least. If you look at transaction counts though, it's weird. Transaction counts are almost zero on the chain to be frank, to be quite honest. I mean, look at where they were in 2018. 170,000. I don't know if this is a Coinmetrics data collection issue. I don't know if this is just how the chain works now, but you expect with NFTs and dexes and swaps and all this other stuff, I'd expect transaction counts to at least go up a little bit, but they are just, it's like there's all this stuff here. It's an empty cathedral. Nobody's using it for the most part, at least on chain. The only thing that I could think would explain this would be those aren't on-chain transactions, but that doesn't really make too much sense to me. Average transaction value is just kind of flat following price for the most part, but very bizarre that when you zoom out, transaction values are way up. Transaction counts just flat, nothing happening there. So that's not exactly bullish. And then to see NVT at all-time highs, it's like we're missing a piece of data here or something. Just doesn't make sense to me. Active addresses as well, just flat. I don't think there's two waves, but maybe there is. I don't know. If not, if this is the waves that we're talking about here, definitely not bullish. You expect some on-chain activity to pick up there, so that's a bit weird. So they have stuff, they have things, they're trying. It's not just an altcoin that says they're going to do something. It's not an altcoin that says we're going to have smart contracts soon, or we're going to have an exchange soon, or we're going to have a DEX soon. They have this stuff available now. Here's waves on the 1 year MA in the green and the multiple in the red here. Now last month I did a video on waves and I said I'd feel better if this goes below the green as a buy signal. It didn't. We'll take a look at the 12-hour cloud specifically on how you could have adjusted expectations. But buy zones in the green, sell zones in the red. Previously got to the red at the very top of the cycle. If you're patient, you're just waiting now, right? Now, it did this twice in 2017. It may do this twice again in 2021. Currently, it's reaching for the midline, but the top of this thing is at 60. By the time it gets there, it's going to be above 60, which is over 2x still from here. And I'd watch that midline at around 35. That'll be telling, I think. If it can get through 35 and hold at that level, then that would be good for bullish continuation on a macro level. Here's the 5200 cross, which stayed bullish, didn't actually cross bearish. Yearly pivots are basically maxed out here at the R5. Now you can always keep calculating these manually. TradingView doesn't calculate it past R5, I don't think. But you can, this goes to R infinity, right? But typically any given year for anything, it doesn't cruise past the R5 unless it's an altcoin for the most part. Most of the volume historically has been below 550, below 13, 14. But I think the important thing here is a lot like ETH, where this stayed bullish throughout mid-May on the EMAs, and it was bullish in mid-2020. So this thing was ready to go kind of immediately after that Corona March spike down. And it's been bullish ever since. Again, like Raven, like I talked about earlier today, I don't see anybody talking about any of these coins. And yet here we are. They're both basically back to all-time high retest levels. This still looks bullish, and when you're bullish, you just expect higher highs when MAs are bullish like this. When you had a consolidation that led to a bullish move, you expect higher highs. I would like to see the cloud flip bullish, like BTC and ETH. Same logic, those haven't flipped bullish yet. I'll be more bullish on those when that happens on the daily, but you can't deny a daily Kumo breakout. That is incredibly bullish for something that got crushed in May. So it gets crushed, triple bottoms, establishes this 50% level, and then retraces. So next stop is definitely all-time high retest. Here it looks on the 12-hour, and you had this very clean triple bottom relative to a lot of other stuff with a diagonal that arguably matched the 12-hour Kumo breakout like to the penny. I mean, it's crazy how these things line up sometimes. And you can draw this however you want, argue it did or it didn't, but to me, it's close enough. And, if you're paying attention to this stuff, that's the key. It's easy to see this as it's happening if you're paying attention. The hardest part is to pay attention to the 500 different charts and the 10,000 different timeframes that this stuff is moving. Even today, I looked at this, I'm like, wow, it would have been great to be in waves as it was breaking out of this W consolidation. This is a very good sign for bullish continuation here as well. And the 12-hour doesn't look too stretched out as far as the TK lines. Even on the daily, it doesn't look as bad as BTC and ETH does as far as this thing could just keep going from here. Against BTC, it's also up since January. Just a crazy random walk up, up volatility, basically. And it's got this head and shoulders inverted potential to just like bust through. You know, I have no reason to be bullish on this. I don't own any relative to my BTC holdings. I'm just saying, like, this looks bullish to me, to see a head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulders that looks like this. So if this can make it through 70K sats, I mean, maybe this goes for an all-time high retest. The only reason this wouldn't, to me, is the on-chain activity. You know, that doesn't back up any of the TA at all. The on-chain activity is multi-year lows, all-time lows type stuff. So that's very bizarre. But the TA looks very good against USD, very good against BTC. Against ETH, it is more of a mixed sideways bag. But still, it's trying to break those local highs. So I don't know. I don't know if Waves just isn't listed enough places, but I don't see anybody talking about it. As an American, I don't even know how hard it is to get a hold of it. I'd have to look which exchanges even have it. I know Binance has it, but I don't know which exchanges that Americans have can access this. But it looks good. It looks really good. I've just watched that on-chain activity because that looks bizarre that this price-wise looks so good, but everything else on-chain doesn't, and they have tons of stuff going on. You know, it's very weird. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital and Enzyme Finance non-custodial portfolio management tool, where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocation. All the trades I make here at the bottom on the trades tab, all of the fun yield plays I'm making in Yearn, Aave, Compound, all the trades that I make through various dexes. Most of the time it's Paraswap, but that can route through Uni, Sushi, sometimes it's a 0x pool. It's all sorts of fun stuff. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.